story that dominated yesterday in the NHL, Frank, Connor McDavid hitting career point 1,000. He is the fourth fastest player to accomplish the feat in NHL history, just about beating Mike Bossy. He finished a few games back of him and coming up just a little bit quicker than Peter Stastny. And of course, Connor McDavid does it in, I think, pretty nice fashion, with his running mate Leon Draisaitl being the one that set him up. And being in the building last night, every time McDavid was touching the puck in the offensive zone, there was a buzz in the crowd, and the crowd was absolutely humming when they saw this 2-on-1 develop. Everyone knew what Leon Draisaitl wanted to do with that puck. McDavid finishes it off on the 2-on-1. His dad, Brian, nice and excited in the crowd. The team comes off the bench. All in all, a great moment for number 97.
It's unbelievable what he's accomplished. And I know everyone kind of just, because of the routine greatness that we see, everyone kind of shrugs. They're like, yeah, of course he got there. But to think about it from this perspective, 1,000 points in 98 fewer games than Sidney Crosby, who I think is an NHL Mount Rushmore player, 189 fewer games than Evgeny Malkin, and 211 games fewer than Alex Ovechkin. Yeah, we can talk about era adjusted, and that's certainly important. But what McDavid is doing, I believe he's the second best player in NHL history, only to Wayne Gretzky. And that's, he's very likely, if he remains healthy, to be just the second player to get to 2,000 points. That's the next sort of thing in his scope. And look, the team accomplishments, everything else that still needs to happen to be able to sort of put him in that conversation and pedigree and category as some of the other names that we just talked about. There's still a long way to go from that perspective, but maybe that's kind of what's so annoying about the discourse on social media. Like, it can't just be a great night for McDavid and his family. Instead, it needs to be, well, where are his cups? Where are this? Where's that? And they want to talk about Sid or talk about whoever. That's not what this is about. This is about Connor McDavid getting to 1,000 points in pretty unbelievable fashion.
Yeah. Again, I say it all the time on the Oilers shows that I host, but appreciate this, because this is a once in a generation, borderline once in a lifetime kind of player that we're getting to watch here in Connor McDavid, and the numbers back it up. The run he's on right now to get to 1,000 points when he did 9 points in his last 3 games. It really is something special to see the way he can take over games. Like last night again, Frank, he was everywhere early in that game trying to get that 1,000th point out of the way. And it was one of those nights where it almost feels like he can just create chances on command.
Well, he can. That's how good he is. And it is amazing. Jason Gregor pointed this out yesterday, but quite literally every round number that he's had a chance to get to, from 100, 200, 300, 400, all the way to 1,000, every single game, he's done it with a multi-point game. So he's always sort of not just hit that, but kind of gotten to the next step. So he has certainly a feel for the moment. He's been an incredibly, impactful, clutch player in that perspective. And I think when you look at the way that his game continues to rise to the next level, the most highly evolved player of all time, this is just another feather in his cap. And I think maybe the most impressive part about what we've seen from McDavid is that it still kind of really feels like he's just getting started.
I know it is weird when you kind of go look at his career page at NHL.com, and it's like, whoa, we're halfway through this thing potentially. Like it is wild. He's in year 9. He's right there.
Yeah, but even then, it still feels like hasn't even quite reached the peak of his powers yet, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, which makes it interesting to think how quickly could he potentially get to 2,000 points. 23 individual shot attempts for McDavid over the last 2 games, which is a pretty wild number. And he sends the Rogers Place crowd home happy yesterday, setting up Darnell Nurse for the overtime winner. And as we wrap it up, the shirts are always a funny thing. You usually see them for guys' 1,000th games. I like this one, McDavid with the little rose-colored sunglasses. It was apparently Leon Draisaitl who dug up the picture and got the Oilers training staff to put it together. You can't really see the bottom, but the top, it goes, this guy's got 1,000 NHL points, and then there's a question mark at the end of it. So I like the Oilers throwing a little jab at McDavid with the old photo there as well. So it was a good night in Edmonton as Connor McDavid joins the 1,000 point club. And now let's talk about who could potentially be next, Frank, because there are a few players who are right there. Nathan MacKinnon is the closest. You have Brad Marchand, who's just in the mix as well. And if Nikita Kucherov can find a way to put home 104 more points, then he's going to join, or he's going to be in the mix too. How many of those three do you think get it this year?
I think two. Look, Marchand has really responded after a very quiet start to his season. But he needs 58 more points, if I'm not mistaken, to get there. And he's sort of been hovering in the 60 plus point range per season. So I think he's probably going to be the one guy that falls short. MacKinnon is a stone cold mortal lock, but I would suggest that even 104 points away, that is within sight of Nikita Kucherov this season. We've got approximately 80% of the season left for someone that's put up massive numbers, 103 now. Look, I think Kucherov gets there this year. What do you say?
I think he will too. And when you look at the fact that he would need to be under 2 points per game as sort of a pace, and he's produced at that kind of a pace. When you look at his numbers last year, I think he could do it. And I could also see him, similar to McDavid in the sense of, if he needs 10 points in his final 4 games this year, I could see Kucherov being the guy who's just like ding, 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 couple of 3-point games, and boom, he finds a way to get it in under the wire. So I think all three of them get it. You mentioned Brad Marchand is starting to pick up the production after, a bit of a slow start to the year. MacKinnon is the lock out of the group if he can stay healthy this season. So I actually think we end up getting all three. And then after that, the next player I think who's on the watch list is actually McDavid's running mate in Leon Draisaitl, who needs 128 more, as Brian points out in the YouTube chat. He's going to have to wait till next year, but he might be the only guy next year who gets there. So in this year and next, we probably welcome 4 more players to the 1,000 point club.
Yeah. And whenever you have a night like McDavid hitting 1,000, it's always a great time to look back on some unbelievable Wayne Gretzky stats. And I tweeted one that he's the fastest player, the fastest and second fastest player to get to 1,000 points, because he did his first 1,000 in 424 games, his second 1,000 in 433 games. And someone replied to my tweet, and this actually is even more mind-blowing than that. I'll read it for you quickly. It says, if you take away all the games where Gretzky had 1, 2, or 3 points, he still has over 1,000 points for his career, because he had 1,004 points in 217 games where he had 4 or more points. 217 games of 4 or more points. What? Are you kidding me? That's insane.
That is wild. Yeah. And we had someone else in the chat point out as we wrap this one out. It was Reaper said, on the bright side, Bossy getting known by the younger and newer fans. This guy's almost unknown with them. And yeah, when he's in that mix, I mean, did it a little bit quicker than McDavid did, but he's got some jaw-dropping numbers too from when he was healthy early on in his career.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.